What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here on Ray's Night Shift, where we talk about everything streaming related. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button for weekly content on everything streaming. So anyway, let's get on with the video. All right, so for all you new streamers out there that aren't sure, what do I buy? I mean, there's so many things that encompass streaming, which is why I love it, because you can get into the cinematography, which is a camera. You can get into the audio, so really upgrade from a condenser microphone to maybe an XLR microphone. There's lighting, there's backdrops, there's so many things that encompass. So what should you start off with? The first thing I would start off with is the microphone. Depending on your budget, I would personally say, since this is for beginners, to start off with a condenser microphone. These are relatively cheap. I picked this up since it was on clearance for like 50 bucks back then, and it sounds really good for what you get. It's not like back in the days where you would think of a cheap microphone and it just sounds really like no. With these condenser microphones, whether it be Blue Yeti or the Samson G-Track, you're gonna get a lot for what you pay for. Even recently, there was one microphone called the Elgato Wave, and that microphone is kind of bridging the gap in between an XLR and a USB mic. Now, usually to get full control of your audio and mix it in different channels. So for example, let me pull out the Go XLR here, and essentially all these little levers right here go up and down. As you can see, the audio level goes up, right? You can't do that necessarily with a condenser microphone. So that was one of the cons. So if you do get the Elgato Wave, it does bridge the gap where you don't have the hardware necessarily, but you have the software. So you can have these tuners essentially on your computer instead of just on a piece of equipment. So that would be my advice. If mixing your sound isn't anything that interests you and you just want to get started, by all means, start off with, like I said, either a Blue Yeti or a Samson G-Track. I used this one for years and I love this thing. I got so much value out of it, and that's why I keep it around. It's actually pretty cool. So when it comes to cameras, it's not as forgiving. I mean, audio, you can get away with, finding some inexpensive mics that are actually really good quality. As far as cameras go, it's actually a little more difficult, because I don't want to recommend you guys any webcams, because generally speaking, webcams just aren't going to be as good as DSLRs. And if you don't know what a DSLR is, it's what I'm shooting with right here. It allows you to get a more crisp image. It gives you more options as far as photography and things like that. So I'll always recommend a DSLR over a webcam, just because, look, if you invest in a DSLR, you can take pictures of your family, you can take pictures of your kid, your car, whatever you want, and edit them however you like. Honestly, these entry-level cameras are really good. So, versatility. Not only can you use your camera for streaming, but you can also use it for, well, essentially anything else you need it for. So that would be my tip. But say you want to use a webcam, what do? If you want to use a webcam, I would say get one of the cheapest webcams you can and invest the rest of the money into good lighting, whether it be fixtures such as this light, little side lights that add a nice blue backdrop to your image. That is what I would recommend. So if you're I would not recommend spending 200 bucks on a webcam, no matter how good it is, because an extra 100 bucks, well, you can get probably an entry-level DSLR. You just have to check the settings to make sure you can use it for streaming. So that would be my advice. Either go for a really cheap webcam. It doesn't have to be the bottom of the barrel that's like $10. You can go a little more if you want and invest the rest in lighting, or start picking up a DSLR. That way you have the versatility of also using it as your own personal camera, and hook it up with a cam link. Now, since we're talking about cameras, it's really important that I talk about the most important thing on your camera, and that's going to be the lens. So essentially, a lens is the detachable lens for your camera. Now, if you don't know much about these, it's okay. All I really need to tell you is that if you're working with a small room, kind of like I am here, I'm just working with a corner of a room, right? I suggest getting a wide angle lens. What does that mean? Anything below 28 millimeters is going to be just fine. If you want it closer to 14. It doesn't have to be 14. They start getting pretty expensive, so just shop around and see what's available for the DSLR you pick up. But essentially, I'll show you. So this lens actually goes back to 16 millimeters, right? If I was to use this lens that came with my camera, it would actually be closer to right here. As you can see, it's like really close to me. I'd have to move the camera farther back if I wanted to use this lens for my stream. Fortunately, I ended up picking up this lens, and it's going to be great for landscape and getting more imagery into my stream setup. Now, those are the big two. I mean, choosing the right camera for you and choosing your microphone is really all there is to it. I mean, outside your PC, of course. Everything else, as far as streaming equipment, is totally optional. Now, I enjoy my Stream Deck. Let's see if we could zoom that in. I enjoy my Stream Deck. It's actually pretty cool. You can go ahead and press a button and change things up. Mine's not as cool as anybody else's, but essentially it has little tools like move over. So pretend you have Google, right? If you have Google running and you just want to quickly get out of the way, I can tap that button, move over, and it'll quickly push it over to the side where I have a predetermined location for it, along with Discord and OBS and things like that. So are Stream Decks essential? I personally don't think so. They do make it pretty cool interacting with something during the stream, so you can switch scenes a little bit easier. When it comes to value, I'd much rather a beginner invest in the camera or the microphone compared to getting a Stream Deck. Another piece of optional equipment that you don't really need to sweat are headphones. Some people are going to get these. Let's see if we could zoom this in. These headphones are Beyerdynamic. They're the DT990 Pros. And while they are really good in quality, I'm not gonna lie, I had some $25 SteelSeries headphones, which weren't as bougie, if you want to call it that. But you know what? They got the job done. If it's between upgrading your headphones or not, I would say leave these for the end. It is still really cool hearing the sound and different pitches and stuff like that. Stuff you wouldn't normally hear on a low budget headset. But I can honestly say these are more of a how would I put it? They're not essential. They're definitely not essential, but they do make your experience just a little bit better. So keep this in mind as you grow your stream. As you get a little more into streaming, you could start looking to pick these up. But if you're a beginner, by all means, just stick with your headphones. So another piece of equipment that I think people get into is like nano leaves, and those are kind of like those little RGB panels, really RGB in general. Now, these lights, the beam, it looks cool. I do not regret buying this light beam at all. Have a video up here if you want to check it out. And you know what? I don't regret buying this light beam because it does add a nice look to my YouTube videos, to my stream, but I don't recommend it for the beginners. And reason being is that they're kind of pricey, and I would much rather a beginner invest it into a camera. Like if it's the difference between you getting a $200 webcam and a $300 DSLR, I'd much rather you go for the DSLR than picking up a light beam. You're going to get so much more value out of the DSLR. So that is why I say these fixture lights and stuff like that, light beams, nano leaves, don't worry about those. Honestly, there's so many streamers that end up picking it up, slapping it on their wall, and it really doesn't do anything to enhance their stream because they're missing quality in other places. So that is my tidbit. Dig it or not, I'm just saying, I know they look cool, but they gotta look cool on camera too. So keep that in mind. Now, the fourth piece of equipment that I would say is totally optional is over here. Oh no, there we go. A second monitor. Now, the second monitor is cool, right? Get back over here. Get over here. A second monitor is cool for checking out OBS and making sure that everything's running smoothly, right? But if you're a beginner, you really don't have to worry about that because for the most part, as long as your OBS settings are running correctly and you know where your macros are on your keyboard to change your scene, you really don't need to see that second monitor. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about Twitch chat? I got you covered. It's free 99 after you pay so many hundreds of dollars or whatever it is for cell phones. But essentially you can monitor your Twitch chat through your phone, which is what a lot of people do. So it's a big no-brainer. Don't stress the monitor. Honestly, again, it's a convenience thing. Do I regret the second monitor? Of course not. It's kind of like saying someone that, you know, it's kind of like people that upgrade their car. Nah, it still gets you from A to B. Yeah, that's understandable. Things do get you from A to B, but let's not lie here. I mean, overall, the comfort from getting to A to B is considerably different. So I'm aware of it, but this is again for beginners, and I'm really being truthful on what you need and what you don't. So let's focus on getting you guys really good gear compared to just little novelties. But again, if you want a second monitor, I'm not going to knock you for it because it is convenient. And honestly, monitors aren't that expensive these days. You can get a spare one for like under $100 to maybe 150 at the most. So yeah, it doesn't have to be flashy if you just want something to stare at, or just a little more convenient. And with that said, everybody, thank you for checking out another episode here on Ray's Night Shift. If you enjoyed the content, by all means consider subscribing to the channel. I do make this content weekly, and remember, this channel is for you guys. As much as I love making these videos, I want to create value for the streaming community, for my input, something that's maybe a little different from what's out there. I love talking. I love helping people out. So that's what Ray's Night Shift is all about, building a community for you guys that you're comfortable talking in, asking for help, anything like that. So if you guys ever want to catch me live on Twitch, you can check me out on Ray's Night Shift. It's the same name as the channel. But with that said, I will see you guys on the next one.